Hello, BookTube. Having a cup of tea. Friday morning, I have the day off. Wonderful. Bright, sunny outside, cold. Really pretty day, though. Let me put this down so I don't wear it. So, I thought I'd talk to you about the first book I read for Q1 of Historathon. Historathon 2026, because it's an ongoing event. Takes all year. Obviously, it's Q1, so we have 4 quarters. And it's different eras. And right now, I'm doing the prehistory era. And you read as many books as you want. And you can find other folks doing this just by using the Historathon or Historathon 2026 hashtag. So I started out with scenes from prehistoric life from the Ice Age to the coming of the Romans, by Francis Pryor. Beautiful cover here, actually. And this was painted by Andy Lovell. Here's our author, many of you who will recognize him, Francis Pryor. He's written quite a few books. This is the first one I've read, and I will read more. Many of you will recognize him from the famous British television archaeology show Time Team. And he's very likable on there, and he's very likable on the page. So obviously this is prehistory in Britain and Ireland. Here, I need another drink of that tea. So it's a slice of prehistory. Now, Francis Pryor is a highly respected field archaeologist, as opposed to a primarily academic archaeologist. Obviously, he has a doctorate and all that. He's an academic guy, but I mean, his focus on field work. I put on Instagram yesterday a picture of the book saying I just finished it, and our old BookTube friend Jason Harrigan gets on and says, full of ritual, because there was a joke on Time Team that he tried to turn every explanation into ritual. And it's funny, there's just enough truth to make it funny, but in this book, he turns it into landscape. Now, Francis Pryor also is a sheep farmer. He owns a farm in the Fens. I don't know if it says, I think he lives up near a place called Peterborough or someplace like that. I don't know my British geography very well. It's pretty sketchy. But in this, his connection to the land and to... So, one thing that drives me nuts is, modern people talk about technology like they invented it. No. We didn't invent the horseshoe. We didn't invent rope. We didn't invent 90% of what you do with woodworking, growing food. And my father's generation is the one who really did the computer stuff. So we get a little carried away with ourselves, I think. He does not. He respects the technology and how the people adapted to the land and how smart they were. They're just as smart as we are. Francis's wife is well known as an archaeologist herself, and her specialty is woodworking in prehistoric times. She'll show dovetail joints that I don't think I can find it real fast, but wooden buckets. Here's some of the joints they use for various things. So here's the beginning of how they made a wheel for a cart, and that's 1,000 years old, folks. And here's a better diagram of it. So he brings his expertise and appreciation for the skills and technology of the time, many of which we still use. And he looks at particular sites throughout history. So, in the British Isles. And so I want to read to you, and like I say, he lives in the fens himself and has a farm and is a field archaeologist. So, setting the scenes, he goes scenes. So these will be the scene 1, scene 2. He's going to do it like that. Landscapes, which is a key word in this book, and chronology. And chronology is what you build in archaeology. So, my own insight in archaeology, I have an undergraduate degree in archaeology, but I was a stone tool guy um, and not a field archaeologist anywhere near like this fella is. So, scene 1 is Britain during the ages of ice, 900,000 to 500,000 years ago. And then he'll do sites: Happisburgh, Pakefield, and Boxgrove. So if I mispronounce, some British pronunciations are different than it would be for me as an American. So if I butcher a name, I apologize. Then he has scene 2, the persistence of caves, life, death, and ancestors. That's 30,000 years ago to 600 BC. So he's got Goat's Hole Cave in Paviland, Killaraw and Sraymore Caves and Robbers Den. Scene 3 is inhabiting the post-glacial landscape, living on the plains, the Vale of Pickering, Glacial Lake Flixton. Scene 4, from wood to stone on Salisbury Plain, 8,000 to 3,000 BC, which is the Stonehenge car park, the Avenue, Blickmead Spring, and Stonehenge itself. Scene 5 is hunters become farmers from 4,000 BC. Fengate. I don't know if it's Eton or Eton and Windmill Hill, the Clava Cairns, and Tomnavery. Scene 6 is from stone to bronze, stone quarries and special places. So, and in this he has the Pike O'Stickle, Langdale, and Orkney Islands. And scene 7 is axes and identities, Bronze Age individuality and family ties, homes next to the sea, and Stonehenge again. Then scene 8 is getting about on land, 4,000 to 2,000 BC, the Amesbury Archer and the Sweet Track. Scene 9 is getting about on coastal waters, 2,000 to 70 BC. This part I really like, the Dover boat and Folkestone and Flag Fen. So Flag Fen, he's himself involved in. The Dover boat was fascinating to me. The technology of it, it was sort of a rescue archaeology is when they're going to build something or dig a gravel pit or something. And you're required by law to let the archaeologists in, at least do a survey and see if they need to save anything before it's destroyed. And the Dover boat is one of those. I think it was deep underground, like 17 feet. Fascinating story. And then it kept damp, so the wood was preserved. Scene 10, food and roundhouses, 1500 BC to AD 43, Cornish Samphire, Fengate Turf Roof, and Little Butser. So Fengate, they did a reconstruction of a roundhouse, and they tried to put the thatch roof on. And when they were doing, this is experimental archaeology, obviously, you try to recreate what it would look like and how it would have worked. Ended up going to a turf roof. It worked better and something to do with the angles and all that. Scene 11 is prosperity from mud and mire. So that's 1200 BC to AD 300. The Red Hills of Essex, Northey and Fengate, Tetney and Lincolnshire Marshes, Cabot, and the Fens. And it's spelled Cowbit, but I think it's Cabot, or something like that. So, who knows? Scene 12, living near water, 1000 BC to 8200. Atlantic Britain, Fenland farmers. You'll see the Fens come up a lot. That's his love. Loch Tay and the Isle of Skye. And we're almost done here. Scene 13 is of trees, carpenters, and wheelwrights, which we just discussed. I showed you the images. The growing importance of woodworking skills in the Bronze and Iron Ages, 1500 BC to AD 43. Buckets from Thorney, the Fengate wooden stake, woodland management, and the flag fen wheel. Don't forget there's something called differential preservation, right? You have a mammoth bone, in certain soils it's going to last longer than a grape will. And wood, depending on the conditions, is quicker to disappear from the archaeological record than, say, a lithic, a stone tool. So, but we're getting better at that stuff. Scene 14 is Life in the Sky hill forts. Maiden Castle, Danebury, Dorset hill forts. Pendynes in Cardigan Bay, obviously Wales. And then the last one, and how we round on, it's sort of like, pulls everything together. Scene 15. And what then? Daily life in Roman times, AD 43 to 410 and later. Rural Roman Britain, Westow, Canterbury Cathedral, and Brixworth. So, instead of, as Jason joked, this is the Brixworth, an ancient church, and rightfully so. I got a kick out of it. About ritual, in this case, it's landscape, and I think it's a good corrective. This is an older reconstruction of Canterbury Cathedral, and I appreciate the landscape and the craft. He talks about the different crafts, and we now know they were doing dovetail joints. I do them myself occasionally. They were doing them 1,000 years ago, and more. And then how the people interacted with the landscape now changed the landscape. So I found this to be a fascinating book. I know he has one called the Fens. I know he has one about his own farm life, and quite a few others about archaeology also. So I really would strongly recommend this. Probably a little easier to get these in Britain than they are here. I just ran into this at a thrift shop. Picked it up because of the subject matter, and only later realized it was our friend Francis Pryor from Time Team. And if you ever get a chance, I know you can watch them on YouTube, episodes of Time Team, and I do that. Don't want this tea to go cold. So try to catch an episode here or there if you haven't watched it. A lot of you have. And maybe you get an episode with Francis on there. So, a day off, a Friday off. That's something rare, and I'm going to enjoy it. Like I said, I got the sun pouring in this window here, but we're going to have a cold couple weeks coming up, so it's winter. That's what happens. So, thank you, everyone, and I hope you have a good weekend.